My husband's ex-wife showed up at our house demanding half of everything he earned after their divorce. So I broke her delusion with one sentence. My husband Leo and I have been married for 3 years. Before me, he was married to Corinne for 6. No kids. The marriage ended because Corinne told Leo she was bored. Not unhappy, not mistreated. Bored. She said he was too predictable and she needed someone who challenged her. In the settlement, she took the car, half the savings, and a lump sum of $30,000. Leo signed everything without fighting because he wanted it over. When Corinne left, Leo was making about $52,000 a year as a site coordinator for a construction company. He had stayed in that position for 3 years because Corinne always told him ambition made people exhausting and she preferred someone stable. After the divorce, Leo took project management courses at night, finished in 8 months, got hired at a larger firm as a senior project manager at $78,000. A year later, he led a commercial build that came in under budget and ahead of schedule and got promoted again to 94. By the time I married him, he was making over $110,000 a year. I didn't build Leo. Leo built Leo. I supported him while he did it. I cooked on his class nights, proofread his proposals, and stood next to him at every company event proud to be there. But every promotion and every raise came from work he did after the woman who called him boring decided he wasn't enough. Corinne found out about Leo's salary through a mutual friend named Donnie who mentioned at a gathering that Leo was overseeing builds worth millions now. Corinne called Leo the next day and asked to talk. Leo met her at a coffee shop because he said he didn't want old tension lingering. He came home and told me everything. Corinne told Leo his success was built on the foundation she created during their 6 years together. She said she kept the household running so he could focus on his career. She said she sacrificed her own ambitions to give him room to grow. Then she told him she wanted half of everything he earned since their separation, not what the court awarded her, not what was in the original settlement. Half of every dollar made after she walked out the door. She said morally he owed her a share of what her years of support made possible. Leo told her no. The settlement was final. Corinne didn't stop. She showed up at our house on a Sunday morning. I answered the door. She looked past me and asked if Leo was home. She said she needed to speak with him privately about a financial matter. I told her anything she wanted to say to my husband she could say in front of me. Leo came to the door and told her they had nothing to discuss. She said she had spoken to a lawyer and was exploring her options. She came back twice more over the following month. The first time she said she gave up a potential nursing career during the marriage to support him. Leo asked her what nursing program she had applied to. She hadn't applied to any. The second time she brought a printed list of everything she contributed during the marriage. Groceries, utilities, household management, emotional labor. She had assigned dollar amounts to each one. Emotional labor was listed at $400 a month for 6 years. The total at the bottom was just over $90,000. She handed the paper to Leo and called it a starting point. Leo handed the paper back and closed the door. After that, Corinne started calling mutual friends telling them Leo was refusing to do the right thing and I was the one keeping him from being fair. 3 of those friends called Leo and told him exactly what she was saying. None of them sided with her. Then came the lawyers. She went to a family attorney and presented her case for post-divorce financial adjustment. He told her she had no legal basis. She ignored him. She went to a second who said the same. She went to a third who charged a $1,500 consultation fee and gave her the same answer. In 3 months, Corinne spent over $4,000 trying to find a single lawyer who would tell her she was owed money from a man she voluntarily left because she was bored. She never found one. During that same period, her boyfriend Vance discovered what she had been doing. 2 days later, Vance called Leo. It was a Sunday night and we were cleaning up after dinner. Leo put the phone on speaker so I could hear. Vance's voice was tight, like someone trying really hard to sound calm and not doing a good job of it. He said, "I need to know if what I found is real." Leo leaned against the counter and said, "What did you find?" Vance said he had been using Corinne's laptop and found a folder she had saved. Inside were screenshots of Leo's company profile page, salary estimate websites with Leo's job title plugged in, and a draft letter addressed to Leo. The letter was titled, "What You Owe Me." Vance said, "She told me she was handling old paperwork from the divorce. That was 3 months ago." That letter wasn't old paperwork. It was a list of demands with dollar amounts and a deadline. Leo told him everything. The coffee shop, the 3 visits, the printed list with emotional labor at $400 a month, the 3 lawyers. Vance didn't interrupt. He just listened. When Leo finished, the line went quiet for what felt like a full minute. Then Vance said, "She told me you were harassing her. She said you kept calling her trying to get back together and your new wife was threatening her." I stood 3 feet from the phone and heard every word. Corinne had flipped the entire story. Every visit she made to our door became a phone call Leo made to her. Every demand she pushed became a threat I made against her. She turned herself into the victim so well that her own boyfriend believed her for months. Vance said he was going to confront Corinne that night. Leo told him, "That's your call. But whatever happens between you two, leave us out of it. We've had enough of this." The relief lasted exactly 2 days. Tuesday evening, Donnie texted me. "Corinne just called me crying. She says Vance broke up with her and she's blaming you and Leo for ruining her relationship. She's saying you told Vance lies to turn him against her." Before I could put my phone down, a second message came through. "She's coming to your house this weekend to settle this once and for all." She said she's not leaving until Leo agrees to a number. This woman had lost 3 lawyers, $4,000, her boyfriend, and the support of every mutual friend. And her response was to announce she was coming back with another demand. I walked into the bedroom where Leo was reading and held my phone out. He read both messages slowly and then sat on the edge of the bed with his palms pressed against his eyes. When he finally dropped his hands, he looked tired in a way I hadn't seen in years. I put my hand on his arm and said, "This time, I'm answering the door, and I'm not closing it until she hears what I have to say." Leo didn't argue. He just looked at me and nodded slowly, like he had been waiting for me to say that. Wednesday afternoon, my best friend Jaylee called. She'd run into Corinne at the grocery store. Corinne wasn't crying. She was calm, almost cheerful. She'd told Jaylee she found a new angle and that Leo was going to regret not settling when she gave him the chance. Jaylee asked what angle. Corinne just smiled and said, "Some debts don't need a courtroom." Then she walked away with her cart like she'd just told Jaylee what she was making for dinner. Jaylee said, "I don't know what she's got, but she wasn't faking that confidence." That confident version of Corinne was the one that scared me most. Crying Corinne was predictable. Angry Corinne was loud but easy to shut down. But confident Corinne, the one who smiled like she already knew the ending, that version made my stomach feel tight. I told Leo when he got home. He called his attorney that night. The attorney said the original settlement was airtight. She could file whatever she wanted. It wouldn't go anywhere, but it could cost time and legal fees to respond. That was the part that sat heavy. Corinne didn't need to win. She just needed to make the process painful enough that paying her off felt easier than fighting. Thursday made it worse. Donnie called and told Leo that Corinne was now telling people she had documentation proving Leo hid income during the divorce, that he knew his salary was about to jump when they split and kept it off the paperwork on purpose so she would get less. Leo's voice went flat. He said, "I was making $52,000 when we split. It's on the tax returns." There was nothing to hide, and he was right. There was no hidden raise. There was no secret promotion. There was no side income tucked away. He was a guy making $52,000 a year who got left by his wife because she was bored, and then he rebuilt himself from scratch after she walked out. But that's the thing about lies told with enough confidence. You don't have to prove them. You just have to say them enough times in front of enough people, and eventually someone wonders. That night, I watched Leo pace back and forth in front of the TV with his hands in his pockets. I asked if he wanted to call the whole thing off, let his attorney send a cease and desist, block her number. Leo stopped pacing. He said, "A letter won't stop her. She doesn't respond to paper. She responds to people. She needs to hear it from someone standing in front of her." He paused. "And I think it needs to come from you, not me. She'll never hear it from me." I knew what he meant. Anything Leo said, Corinne could twist into something else. If he was firm, she would call him aggressive. If he was kind, she would call it guilt. But me? I was the wife she had been looking past since the very first time she knocked on our door. If I was the one who said it, she couldn't rewrite it. It would just be the truth, spoken plainly by the woman who had watched her husband earn every single thing Corinne was now trying to claim. Later that night, Jaylee texted me, "Whatever you're going to say, make sure it's something she can't twist." I lay there in the dark and thought about every single thing Corinne had twisted. Her visits to our house became Leo calling her. Vance finding her own folder became us telling Vance lies. Getting rejected by 3 lawyers became Leo hiding income. Every time someone pushed back, she found a way to flip the story. I couldn't just be angry on Saturday. Angry gives Corinne material. I had to be precise. One sentence. Not a speech, not a list of everything she did wrong, not a fight, just one sentence. The right one. I already knew what it was. I had known it for weeks. Saturday morning came slow. By 9 o'clock, I was wiping down counters that were already clean, just to keep my hands busy. 9:15, I heard tires on the driveway. Leo stood up from the couch. I walked over and put my hand on his arm. I could feel the muscle tight under his sleeve. I said, "Let me get it." He gave me a small nod and stayed where he was. I grabbed the handle and pulled the door open before Corinne could even raise her hand to knock. She was standing 2 feet away with her fist halfway up. Her eyes went wide for a second. She wasn't expecting me to be that fast. Every other time she came to this house, she'd had a few seconds on the porch to arrange her face and get her story ready. This time I took that away from her. She was holding a manila folder against her chest like a shield. Her hair was done. Her makeup was neat. She looked put together in the way people look when they're performing instead of living. She recovered quick. The surprise left her face in 2 seconds, and she straightened up and looked past me toward the living room, the way she always did, like I was just the thing standing between her and the person she actually wanted to talk to. She said, "I need to talk to Leo. I have documents." Her voice was calm, almost professional. I didn't move from the doorway. I kept my hand on the door and my feet planted, and I looked her right in the face. I said, "You can talk to both of us, or you can leave." Her jaw tightened. She didn't like being told the terms of a conversation she thought she was running, but she didn't leave. She gave a short nod. I stepped aside and let her walk in. She moved past me without saying thank you, without acknowledging me at all, and walked into the living room like she owned the place. Leo was standing near the couch with his arms crossed. He didn't greet her. He didn't offer her a seat. Corinne walked straight to the coffee table and set the manila folder down. She opened it and started spreading the pages out like she was laying down evidence in a courtroom. Screenshots of Leo's company website showing his name and his title. Pages from job listing sites with salary ranges for senior project managers highlighted in yellow. And a handwritten timeline on lined paper covering the 6 years she was married to Leo, with notes like managed household budget, provided emotional support during stressful work periods, and declined career opportunities to maintain home stability. At the bottom of the last page, she had written a total. She had added up her so-called contributions using the same fake math, dollar amounts assigned to cooking and being emotionally available, and come up with a number she had circled twice in red ink. She pointed to it with one finger. "This is what I'm owed, not legally, morally, and I'm not leaving until we agree on a number." Leo's voice was steady. "There is no number, Corinne. We've been over this." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't lean forward. He said it flat and final, like a door closing. But Corinne didn't look at him when he said it. She turned to me. She looked me up and down once, quick, like she was sizing me up. And then she pointed at me and said, "You're the one keeping him from doing the right thing. You married into money that I helped build and you don't want to share it." I felt the heat hit my face like someone had turned a lamp on right against my skin. My hands wanted to ball up. My mouth wanted to open and let out every single thing I had been holding in for months, but I didn't. I stayed still. I let her finish because I knew she wasn't done. She straightened up and started talking like she was giving a speech she had practiced in the mirror. She said she gave Leo 6 years of her life. She said she kept the house running so he didn't have to worry about anything except his job. She said she put her own dreams on hold, that she had things she wanted to do and places she wanted to go, but she stayed because Leo needed someone holding the home together. She said if she hadn't been there doing all of that invisible work, Leo would still be making $52,000 a year at the same dead-end job with no future and no ambition. She was getting louder now, not yelling, but pushing her voice harder like volume was going to make the words more true. Then she crossed her arms tight against her chest and lifted her chin and said, "Without me, there is no him." And she waited. She stood there with her arms crossed and her chin up like a lawyer who'd just finished a closing argument and was sure the jury was about to come back in her favor. I took one breath, slow. I felt Leo standing next to me, still and quiet, giving me the space he said he would give me. I looked her in the eyes and didn't raise my voice. I said, "Corinne, let me ask you something." My voice came out steady, almost soft, like I was asking her about the weather. "You said you kept the household running running so Leo could focus on his career. You said you sacrificed your ambitions so he could grow. You said without you, there is no him. I repeated her own words back to her exactly the way she said them. No sarcasm, no mocking tone, just her own claims, laid out flat so she could hear them clearly. Corinne nodded firmly, like I was finally catching on. That's exactly right. I let the nod sit there for a second. I let her feel confident for one more breath. Then I said it. Then why did he only start growing after you left? The room went quiet, not just regular quiet. The kind of quiet where you can hear the air in the room change. Corinne's mouth opened. I watched her lips part like she was about to say something, but nothing came out. No words, no sounds, just her jaw hanging open slightly and her eyes moving back and forth like she was searching for something that wasn't there. I didn't let the silence go on too long. Same tone, same calm, same volume. I said, every single thing you say you helped him build, he built after you were gone. Every promotion, every raise, every course he took at night, all of it happened after you told him he was boring and walked out the door. I watched the confidence leave her the way color leaves a screen when you turn it off. I said, you didn't build this man, Corinne. You were the thing standing in his way. She didn't fire back. She didn't snap at me. She didn't do any of the things I had watched her do for months. She turned her head and looked at Leo. She looked at him the way someone looks at a person when they need to be told that what they just heard isn't true. She was waiting for him to step in and say I was being unfair. Leo didn't rescue her. He stood right where he had been standing since she walked in, arms still crossed, and he wasn't even looking at her. He was looking at the floor, not out of shame, not out of guilt. He was looking at the floor because he had nothing left to say to her, and he knew I was saying it for him. Corinne turned back to me. Her voice cracked when the words came out. She said, that's not fair. I gave him stability. I gave him a home. She said it quieter than anything else she had said since she walked through the door. It wasn't a demand anymore. It was something smaller, almost like begging. I didn't yell. I didn't roll my eyes. I just looked at her and said, you gave him a ceiling, and he didn't break through it until you removed yourself from his life. That's not my opinion. That's his tax return. I saw the hit land, her shoulders pulled in, just slightly, like someone had poked her in the ribs. Her fingers found the folder again. They were shaking. She said, you don't know what our marriage was like. You weren't there. Her voice was thin and tight. It was the last card she had. I nodded. I actually nodded because she was right about that part. I said, you're right. I wasn't there. I saw a tiny flash of something in her eyes, like she thought she had finally caught me. But I wasn't done. But I was there for every class night, every late proposal, every promotion dinner. I was there when he became the man you're now trying to collect from. And I'm telling you, the foundation you keep talking about, it didn't exist until you left. Her face went blank. The folder was still pressed against her chest. She stood there surrounded by the pages she had spread across the coffee table, and none of it mattered anymore. All that fake math and all those made-up dollar amounts. And it all fell apart because the one thing she could never argue with was the timeline. Leo was making $52,000 when she left. He was making over $110,000 when I married him. Everything she was trying to claim happened after she was gone. Corinne turned to Leo one last time. She looked at him with her lips pressed tight and her eyes wet. She was waiting for him to disagree with me. She was waiting for him to soften what I said. She was waiting for him to give her something, anything, even a small thing, some tiny piece of credit she could take home and use to keep her version of the story alive. Leo looked up from the floor. He met her eyes. His voice was quiet, not cold, not mean, just quiet, the way someone sounds when they are saying something true that they don't enjoy saying. He said, she's right, Corinne. I didn't even know what I was capable of until you told me I wasn't enough. He paused. You did do something for me. You leaving was the best thing that ever happened to my career. Corinne flinched. It was small, but I saw it. Her whole body pulled back maybe half an inch, like the words physically pushed her. Leo kept going. And I'm sorry it hurts to hear that, but I'm done pretending otherwise so you can feel better about a choice you made. The room was so quiet after that, I could hear the clock on the wall ticking again. Corinne stood there for maybe 5 seconds. It felt longer. Her eyes went from Leo to me, and back to Leo, and then down to the folder in her hands. She pressed her lips together so tight they almost disappeared. She didn't argue. She didn't cry. She didn't try to flip the story. She reached down and picked up the pages she had spread across the coffee table and shoved them into the folder without straightening them. She tucked the folder under her arm. She walked to the front door. She opened it herself. She stepped out onto the porch and pulled the door shut behind her without looking back. I heard her shoes on the concrete, then her car door, then the engine, then the sound of tires backing out of the driveway, getting quieter until it was gone. And that was it. She didn't come back. Not the next day, not the next week. No more Sunday morning visits. No more phone calls to Leo. No more messages through Donnie. No more lists or folders or threats about lawyers. It just stopped. All of it. Like someone turned off a faucet that had been dripping for months. I stood there by the front door for a few seconds, just listening to the silence in the house. It felt different from the silence before she arrived. That silence was heavy and full of waiting. This silence was clean. Then I felt Leo's arms come around me from behind. He pulled me into a hug and held me tight. He rested his chin on the top of my head, and I could feel his chest rise and fall against my back. He whispered, "Thank you for saying what I couldn't." I held onto his arms and closed my eyes. The pages from Corinne's folder were gone. The coffee table was empty. The front door was closed. And I knew standing there in that quiet moment that this was never really about one sentence. It was about standing in front of someone else's delusion and refusing to let it rewrite my family's truth. Corinne had spent months building a story where she was the reason for everything good in Leo's life. She needed that story to be true because the real version, the one where she left a good man because she was bored and he became better without her, was something she couldn't live with, but that was her problem, not ours, not anymore.